Hi there. Good morning. Michael Suttle here from Tartini Advisors, coming to you today with a third in a series. This is sales techniques and processes, strategic approach. Today's session is all about value proposition and price proposal phase. It's phase two of the process. Phase three. Let's see if we can share the screen here properly, and hopefully this will come through, and it looks like it is. So without further ado, is a hats off and a nod of thank you to the support, kind of underpinning, as I guess I would call it, from the Kelley School of Business, Indiana University, one of the top 5 business schools in the country, and one of the few schools that has a professional sales major. In my humble opinion, it's the best school that has a professional sales major. Full disclosure, I'm a graduate alma mater from Indiana University. The other logo here is the Section School, which is an online school, very current and up to date, from NYU. NYU's Professor Scott Galloway is the founder. I'm currently involved there as well, and we've really got some key items to share. So let's get to it. The 5 steps, just to review, are engage the prospect, discovery, price proposal, which is also known as value proposition. We'll be going over that in detail today. Demo, which is sometimes a software demo at client Bridgetronic. That tends to be more of a inspection of the equipment. And then, of course, negotiate and sign. Now, these are all nicely arranged left to right as a linear process. And let's just acknowledge and understand right up front that this doesn't actually happen linearly. Customers somehow have their own process that they want to follow, and they're really not that interested. No, that's not true. They're completely uninterested in our process or what we think our process is. So we always have to be on our feet and recognize when they've started acting inside of one of these chevrons, if it's number 2 or number 5 or number 3 in the moment. And the purpose of this session and the Tartini method for strategic sales is to develop these sales skills in green. I usually talk about how the opening, engage a prospect, demonstrating some relevance and resonance and empathy. It's a very different skill set and process from what comes at the end, which is NSD level negotiating. NSD refers to Never Split the Difference, a book by Chris Voss, former FBI hostage negotiator. And all I could say is that they're both great, but if we come in hot acting like an FBI hostage negotiator right up front, we're probably not going to generate much empathy, resonance, or relevance. That won't go well. Having said that, at the end, with negotiation and signing, if we're sort of stuck on relevance and resonance, and empathy isn't bad, it's still valuable at this level, but if we're trying to continue to not be Chris Voss, like we don't want to be in stage 1, we're just never going to get these things signed. So we'll either never get it engaged or never get it signed. Really got to know how to go about the process and using the right skills at the right time. Again, just to refresh, this is some actions that we typically take inside of each of these steps. And you can notice that most of them end with earning something like a return ticket or an invitation to a next step, or earn some feedback from them that we can adjust to, possibly even doing a conditional close and even an actual close at the very end. So let's dive in to the whole credibility and confidence-based value proposition, i.e. price proposal stage. We call it price proposal because that's really the thing that happens there. But what we're doing with that thing is establishing a proposal and a value proposition for the customer. How do we do that? Well, first off, we really have to lead with our product. No, that's not right. Never lead with our product. Oddly enough, they don't care about that. What they care about are their own business challenges. So we have to lead with understanding and an ability to understand business challenges that they might have. Hopefully, we've established some of that in the engagement phase and in discovery, where we have enough knowledge and information at this point where we really could speak with some level of credibility and confidence about the type of issues they might be dealing with at their organization. It really, really helps if we've had some experience with this before. And if we don't have that much experience, if we substitute experience, we substitute knowledge for experience. Knowledge can be had. If you see the long list of videos here, there's a lot of information available in today's world. I've highlighted a few that are really key, like Daniel Pink and Adam Grant together in one video. How great is that? Daniel Pink wrote the book To Sell is Human. The other book, The Challenger Sale, super valuable. There's a video out there, several of them in an earlier session we shared from Matt Dixon. He's the co-author of the Red Book, as we call it. And this gives you an opening to a guide to the host of information out there on YouTube. We didn't even look at podcasts. There are a whole host of value there as well. But this gives you an opening and a starting point, and then sort of a 20-minute class here online, establishing the value of a solution to their problem. The way we do that is we simply have to understand what their problems are. They might be willing to have told us what they are in the discovery phase, let's hope. Hopefully we've asked some good questions. And we can lead at this point, if we have done that, with some hypotheses that say, look, we believe that a company like yours will have these challenges to overcome. Some of them might come from global political events. Some might come from new legislation. There's a lot of sources for problems. And it's just really key that the first fundamental is an understanding and sort of a agreement between us and them of what the value of solving their problems might be. Then let's take a deep breath before we go into the next thing. Once we've established a common understanding of the value to solving these business challenges or problems, we can then, and only then, I would suggest, connect the cost of what we're offering to the value that they've already agreed to of solving something. And just in rough terms, what if, for example, they thought the value of solving their problem was $10 million and we had something to offer that costs $5 million? That would be sort of what we say is a technical term, a no-brainer in the world. To why wouldn't you spend $5 million if you're going to get a $10 million value? Sounds like a net plus $5 million if we're doing the math correctly. So that might all be true. But we'll take another deep breath before we talk for a moment about how do we prove it? Well, us boldly claiming what we believe to be true, that's probably not a good path to prove anything to anyone. What does work are things like having current customers that we've solved similar problems with who are willing to take inbound phone calls from this prospective customer and talk about their experience, usually without us on the line, by the way. It's really very most effective. We do have to come up with a way to prove that the connection actually got made. Sometimes we've done these where we'll start up the call and then we'll drop off and leave the prospect and the customer alone to their own devices, something along those lines. Customer events are a really good way to do this. Shows like the Semicon West show or SAP Sapphire as an example or two. these are really, really super valuable to get prospects together with customers. Another way to prove what we have might be what we, I guess, would call industrial organizations. Uh, Other companies, they're in the same industry that they belong to. When we worked a lot with oil and gas companies in the early days of SAP ERP, we would sort of turn them loose at the American Petroleum Institute API shows to talk amongst themselves. And later, they would have been convinced that perhaps we could do what we claim to do, and this is being proven. So let's talk about a couple of specific case studies, and then I'll point you towards the videos to continue learning on this path. And so this overall session will be about 15 minutes long, and these other sessions are, the other videos are between 5 and 15 and 20 minutes long, each of them. And then, of course, there's these 3 books, which are highly recommended. Case study number 1, Hewlett Packard, one more time. I thought I was out, but they keep sucking me back. So what did we do? This is Hewlett Packard, and our experience there from a platform of when I was the VP of sales for the West, Commvault, a very solid $400 million at the time company doing backup and recovery software, data management. And this case study, I find it to be a really interesting and intriguing one. It's always difficult to displace a competitor. Always much easier to win when the company has decided, or the customer has decided, to put in something new. But displacing an incumbent, I believe Sun Tzu from The Art of War said, takes 10-to-1 odds to assault a walled city. That's what this is all about. I'd say it's even worse when you're selling to HP and the name of the competition, the competitive product that you're replacing, starts with the words HP. It was HP Data Protect. Yet somehow that had run out of gas, run out of viability, run out of steam, and just run the course of history. They had had it so long, it just wasn't modern, nor was the company investing in improving it. And so we had an advantage from a functional capability. But I do think that it was proven that Hewlett Packard had, let's call it some ambivalence and maybe even some paranoia, and even a little bit of other types of psychoses thrown in about whether they really wanted to do this or not. They had 2 false starts. We had one was a giant RFP process, which we won. They got all the way down to the end, almost to the end, and pulled the plug on the whole project. Okay, another year later, they came back and started the whole thing, which we somewhat happily participated on. We won again, and then they pulled the plug, this time at the 11th hour instead of 2 ticks up till midnight, but that still hurt. Then a third time they called us, okay, those other times, just kidding, but we really want to do this now. And we, to our credit, and to my boss and his boss's credit, we told them basically, no, we won't do this unless you can agree up front to a couple of things. And one was the scope. We wanted to make sure that the dollar amount was worth doing. 2 was the pre-recorded, pre-negotiated contract terms. We felt like we'd done a good job of negotiating those in the first place, so we didn't think it was fair for them to ask us to renegotiate them all over again. And we also had a time frame in mind that it was very reasonable, probably 2.5, 3 months, but to line up with our quarter. A lot of times you can't ask for, most of the time you can't ask for this stuff up front, but it wasn't really upfront, was it? It was sort of the third strike at the plate, and we just didn't want to take a wild swing at this third strike unless we were pretty confident we'd be able to connect on it this time. At the end of the day, they agreed to all these things, and even they came up with a few curveballs towards the end. My favorite one was wait, we want to buy 150% of what has been quoted. Would you please send us a new quote for a new dollar amount? And we told them, no, we really don't want to do that. It seems contrary to your best interest. Your technology people have told us they spent a lot of time scoping this, and you, the procurement guy, we just, I mean, if you can get the technology people to tell us to quote it at a 150%, then perhaps we will. But just as a quote at this level, that doesn't make sense to us. And so they backed off. I could tell you a couple of our low-level salespeople had a gag reflex about saying no to that, as they tried to envision their own paychecks 150% of what they would have been. What they didn't realize is that it would have no bearing whatsoever, because sooner rather than later, this would be squashed back down. Those of us that have been around the block a few more times, we're pretty confident that that was actually a trick and not a well-meaning attempt to buy 1.5 times as much as what we were selling them. So we won. We got the revenue. This was a giant success story. And there's always more to the story after the fact. So there's a couple of epilogues to this story that we don't have time for today, but you'll see my contact information towards the end. Happy to share that later. Example, fundamental number 5 is case study number 2. PricewaterhouseCoopers. We did a $27 million deal with them to adapt and incorporated ERP concepts and also supply chain management concepts into a professional services firm, which seems like it might not fit if you're really talking about supply chain management, because they don't run a supply chain. They're not making anything. They don't have transistors, resistors, chips, circuit boards, plastic boxes. They have none of that. But what they do have are people, processes, products, projects. And if they manage all those things and manage it like a supply chain, because it's all about delivering, it really, really makes sense with some small adjustments to our existing supply chain management software. So off we went into a three company evaluation between SAP, Oracle, and PeopleSoft. I've always wondered to this day, I don't know why they eliminated Oracle, but there we were left with us versus PeopleSoft, which is terrific, because PeopleSoft had, in those days, a very specific offering that was HR strong, and ours was a global platform. They were about a 1/6 our size in terms of the PwC had a $6 billion with a B SAP practice and less than $1 billion in PeopleSoft. They kept claiming that that didn't matter. And so we didn't try to convince them that it mattered. We knew that it did matter. And so we did depend on that to some degree. We also beat them hands down across the board on capability. But the thing that really allowed us to win was having, they called the final session, by the way, in Paris, France. We all had to go there to present to their steering committee, global partners. They had 30 partners. The PwC selection team practice, they were there running the show, and they were all staying at the Paris Hilton. Worked a long time to fit that joke into this session at de Gaulle Airport. And they wanted us to come out there and present at the airport, just like our competition was doing. And we told them that we really didn't think that was a good idea. We thought it was much more beneficial to them to visit our SAP Paris office. And then, of course, they were reluctant and resistant to doing that until we hired special French limousines with French croissants and servers and a pleasant morning experience. And sure enough, they did want to come. So off they came down. We had our global CEO, Hasso Plattner, as a presenter. No, that's not right. Our Professor Dr. Henning Kagerman, our current CEO, he presented to the group. Then we went upstairs for a breakout session with Kagerman, myself, the sales rep, and a special guest, Hasso Plattner, the founder, CEO, chairman of the entire SAP company. And in that meeting, we had worked hard to coach our CEO on what to say to the customer. And it's very difficult to do that always. Professor Dr. Henning Kagerman and Hasso, both very, very smart. One is more coachable than the other. You can guess which one that is. And only thing I would share is that to this day, I don't really remember what we asked Henning Kagerman to say to PwC, but here's what he did tell them. PwC has been our longest time partner at SAP. We would like that to continue. Any questions? No, they didn't have any questions to that. The message was loud and clear. And it really is, to wrap this all back to price proposal. We gave them pricing, we gave them a proposal, we had the value prop as I described earlier on applying supply chain management principles to their business. But what really made this fly was the connection of value to cost and capability and risk, because we had a Paris office. We had global offices around the globe. Our competitor did not. They had already a big investment in us. That tipped the scale quite a bit. And I think that on a borderline, very diplomatic PhD level, the way that Dr. Kagerman described this was almost bordering on intimidation, but it really wasn't. It was a promise, not intimidation. It was a promise that we would continue to look out for them as a partner, especially now that they're a customer. And that was the connection of cost and value and solving their business problem. And at an emotional level, which Daniel Pink and Adam Grant do a much better job at describing than Dr. Kagerman probably could, or that I would. So without further ado, that wraps up the session. Please watch the videos. Each one, you'll get a PDF of this presentation. And each one of these blue links will have a link to it that you can see here that allows you to watch the video, read the books if you can. And last but not least, this is a class, so there is a test. That's where you'll find the test. And I'd just like to say thank you for being here. On the behalf of Indiana University Kelley School of Business. And thanks out to NYU's Professor Galloway and Section School. Have a great day. Good luck selling.